As a student or an academic researcher, you want to be able to find credible sources relatively quickly and easily. And one way to do that is to figure out what sources you can really rely on and then focus your searches on those sources rather than searching the whole giant internet. So we'll start by looking at the Add Fonts media chart. This is a very well-known and respected effort that screens all sorts of sources for media bias. You'll see that the chart is located at addfontsmedia.com. The nice thing about this chart is that it's updated regularly. So as media outlets change their shift in bias, perhaps, the makers of this chart keep track, keep analyzing the sources, and keep providing us with an understanding of what media we can actually count on. So I'm just going to start by showing you how the chart is organized. You'll notice that across the top of the chart is a rating about which political bias a source might have. Right here is middle, and those sources are considered the least biased. Skews left, which means these sources tend to have a more liberal perspective. Hyper-partisan left, which means that these sources are very liberal and partisan. And then there is a column for the most extreme on both ends of the chart. Over here on the right, you can see that there are sources that tend to skew more right, and then sources that become increasingly partisan, and finally, again on the right, most extreme. Since we're writing for academic purposes, it's very important that we choose sources from the middle. We want the least biased sources possible so that we get the most accurate and unopinionated information. Next, you'll notice that there's another scale over on the left-hand side of the chart, and that is the type of content that each of these sources includes. You'll notice at the very top is fact reporting. And you'll see AP and Reuters, for example, are news sources that generally send reporters out to gather facts without any kind of analysis. In other words, they just report what they find. In the second tier here, it's mostly analysis or a mix of fact reporting and analysis. Often these sources are using the information that comes from AP, Reuters, etc. in order to provide the material, the analysis or reporting that they publish. So many of them actually go to these sources to get their information. Down here we see that this tier is analysis with a high variation in reliability. In other words, some of it is very good, but some of it is not very dependable. So as academic writers, we don't want to rely on these sources because we can't trust them to provide us with solid evidence that we want to build our arguments on. Here, these publications are based mostly on opinion, and they also have a lot of variation in reliability. Down here, we see sources that are very selective, that they unfairly persuade, or that they promote propaganda. And I'll point out that there are sources both on the liberal or left side and the conservative or right side that publish this kind of material. And finally, there's actually one tier of material that is completely unreliable, it might actually publish inaccuracy or outright lies. Now, all of us have preferences for what we enjoy reading in our private life, but for academics, we have to play by these very specific rules. And for that reason, we want to stick within the center 4 sections of this chart. In other words, we want the material that's most in the middle and that is most accurately reporting facts and information. I'll zoom in so that you can take a look at those sources. Now we'll zoom in to get a good look at the sources in the center here. You'll see these are the sources that fall within the center of the chart: AP, Reuters, CBS, PBS, ABC, BBC, USA Today, NPR, The Economist, Forbes, Insider, Education Week, South China Morning Post. Upworthy is right here on the edge. The Dispatch, Potomac Watch, The Hill, Defense News, The Wall Street Journal, Fox Business. Notice it's specifically the business part of Fox, and The Dispatch. These are all sources that you can feel comfortable using in your papers.